Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. Sorry my webcam's not cooperating fully, so they said in The Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So, today we're going to talk about combination and why it should be in your toolkit for the SAT. Along the way, we're also going to discuss a few tips to help increase your points on that magical important test day. So, let's get right down to it and talk about that issue. Sample problem number 1. 4x minus y equals 3y plus 7, and x plus 8y equals 4. Based on the system of equations above, what is the value of the product of x, y? Well, the first question you're probably asking yourself is, what is the problem asking me? Absolutely correct. You should always identify what the problem is asking you. Either underline it or you can write it out. XY equals question mark. That is the first tip. Be sure to identify what the question asks. You can't get your points if you don't give them what they're asking for. So, back to the problem. So, with this problem, we're going to try substitution first. As you can see, we rearrange the first equation to get x by itself. Then we substitute that value in, going through each of the steps, and we find y is equal to 1, 4. Now, you may notice that I actually write out what I did on each side of the equal sign, step by step. That, ladies and gentlemen, is tip number 2. Don't skip steps. Skipping steps is a recipe for disaster. Don't let a misuse of a negative sign prevent you from test day success. All right, after we solve for y, we need to solve for x. We plug those values in and we get x is equal to 2. But are we done? No, remember we were asked for x, y equals question mark. So we have to plug those two values in, multiply them, and we get answer choice C. So tip number 1, tip number 2. But I'm sure some of you are thinking, let's take a look at combination, right? Well, they're absolutely correct. When we look at combination, solve for x first, we rearrange the equation, we then multiply it by 2, we then combine it with the second equation, and we get 9x equals 18, divide both sides by 9, and x equals 2. Substitute in 2 for x, solve y equals 1/4. This is a little shorter, saved you a little time. Once again, we plug those values in, solved, and we found answer choice C, which we know to be correct from the previous iteration. So I know some of you are skeptics out there. Yeah, substitutions didn't take that much longer. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at this other problem. Sample problem number 2. If xy is the solution of the system of equations above, what is the value of x minus y? Remember tip number 1. We want to identify what the question is asking us. Once again, you want to underline it or write it out. I recommend you practice doing this till it becomes a routine. Now, we know what we're being asked to find. Most students will go on autopilot and find x and y individually, substitute those values in, and find x minus y. However, whenever you've been asked to find x minus y, you would be best to see if you can find them together. And that is tip number 3. When asked for x, y, check to see if you can find them together. Okay, if you'll notice in this original problem, we already have x minus y equals a number and x minus y equals a number. What if we combine those two? So we combine the two equations, we get 5x minus 5y equals negative 20. Divide both sides by 5, and we get x minus y equals negative 4. This was a huge time saver over finding the individual values and putting them together. Once again, our answer choice is C. So, to sum up, combination can be an extremely useful tool to use for solving systems of equations. And keep in mind those 3 tips. Be sure to identify what the question asks. Don't skip steps. And when asked for x, y together, check to see if you can find them together. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Have a great day and come back next time when we'll talk about some other tips for your SAT success.